Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, political fighters. Welcome to the July 27th, 2026 edition of Choose Views. Our number is 773-763-9278. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and YouTube. You can email me at richard@wcpt820.com and follow me on all the socials under Choose Views. Catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views featured interviews, Joan Esposito live, local and progressive, driving it home with Patty Vasquez. It's the Democracy Stupid with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other great shows and interviews. In the evenings, catch the Politics Bar, the Matt McNeil Show, and the Gailey Show, and make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. So let me just get to that. Get over there to Heartland Signal, because Radio Free America. It's a great article by Aaron Kleinman. Are political nonprofits the part of the establishment? I won't give you too much of a tip on it, but it's a great article. Former nonprofit executives campaigning as anti-establishment outsiders. Are they the part of the problem because they're still insiders? Check it out. It's a great article by Aaron Kleinman at heartlandsignal.com. South Dakota, Tom Pischke, he's a senator a state senator from South Dakota, Republican, faces up to 4 years in prison for what? What, Matty B? Election fraud charges. He's not one of those people that the Republicans are saying are the bad Democrats. Nope, sorry, not the one. Let's see. We talked about this the other day, but you still want to check it out. Vivek Ramaswamy has spent nearly 40% of his time outside of Ohio, but yet he wants to be the governor for the entire state. That doesn't match up, y'all. It doesn't match up at all. And we've got a couple of the good ones there about Mitch McConnell. And Senator Van Hollen backs Dr. Said in his Michigan Senate race, saying that he'll take on the Democratic establishment. That's coming from someone that, I wouldn't say that Senator Van Hollen has been, part of the establishment. He's probably been more, I don't know if I'm going to say he's been moderate. He's been one of those fighters. So I'm not going to put him in that spot. He's been one that's spoken out. He's, I would say he's been far more, he's been one to push against the establishment more than others. And he may not fit the narrative that some people want, but so, yeah, he's endorsed Dr. Abdul Al-Said, who's running for Michigan Senate, which is cool to see. He and Ashley Stevens are still they're in that fight. So Haley Stevens, why did I say? I'm thinking of our guest today. Speaking of that, Ashley Bell will be with us in the 6:30 hour. Candidate for Congress in the 10th District of North Carolina. Looking forward to chatting with her. Sarah Jones will be with us again this Monday. It's 2 in a row, making up for lost time. Managing editor and co-publisher of Politicus USA and the Daily Politicus with Sarah. And then retired Army Lieutenant General Russel Honore, founder of the GreenARMY. You know who he is. He is the man that stepped up like no one else and said, put those damn guns down during Katrina. And he has become legendary. Both his military career and since leaving the military. So he'll be with us in the 7:30 hour, and I want to talk to him about the environment, talk to him about the war. So looking forward to having some time with our three guests today and just excited about that. So let me throw out to you today's question, and then I'm going to circle back to something from earlier. Today's question is, what do you guys think are the top items or steps elected officials need to take to improve our current healthcare systems in America? Again, what do you guys think are the top items or steps elected officials need to take to improve our current healthcare systems in America. We'll talk about that. Maddie will open up the lines in a moment and get you guys to call in and give us your thoughts there. You can text us as well, the same number, 773-763-9278. And it's me, Maddie B, and Mike today making it happen. So that's our question of the day. But I want to circle back a little bit to the weekend. I hope everybody had a great weekend. And for those who are in the know, I had a chance to land my prop plane here yesterday afternoon to be on the family meeting. So shout out to my man, Eric Grant, who is celebrating his big 6-0 birthday on Friday. So Michelle Peltier, who is a co-host of the family meeting and sits in for me every now and again when I got to catch a breath. Adrian and I were here together yesterday, and to say we were yucking it up would be a downplay to what actually, Matt's smiling already. He's like, nah, you fools weren't yucking it up. You were throwing haymakers and stuff. But it was fun to see the old crew, Eric, Michelle, and Adrian, and of course, Tiffany and Stella were here. So happy birthday to my man, Eric. I know I'll say it again on Friday, his actual birthday. And yes, we're putting his business in the street. But when you love somebody, you care about them, and you respect them, you want to make sure that they're honored. And he made it to 60. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal for any of us to make it to 60. And we're grateful when we make it to 60 and beyond. So kudos to Adrian and to Michelle. But I also want to say one of the things that we talked about yesterday in the show, you guys can grab that by going to the Family Meetings website. We talked about the importance of people taking responsibility for where they are when it comes to social issues, and more specifically, where they are when it comes to dealing with their own racial bias, and that it is your responsibility as an individual when it comes to issues, whether it be race, whether it be gender, and all the rest. But let's take on those two. We all have to do the work. We all have to ask ourselves, what could I be doing better? What should I be more mindful of? Who out there might need my help when it comes to race and gender? Because I'm telling you, when we scratch away all the things that are going on right now in the country, you could find a path that leads back to how race and gender play a key role, and not in necessarily the best of ways, in being something that holds our country back. I said this a couple of weeks ago, about the reason that we don't have the best health care on the planet, that we don't have some of the other safety nets in place for everybody, is because of racism. The reason that we don't have good infrastructure in all communities is not because we don't have the money. It's not because we have the money. We definitely have the money. It's because of racism. And in some cases, some could say because of gender. But I'm going to stay in the race lane. And we can go back and look at the historical data that says that many times legislation was blocked because certain parties in our country, local, state, and national parties, politically, socially, business, did not want other folks to have the ability to have access to benefits like healthcare, like education, better wages. I know from all the data that the reason that we're still stuck on stupid with a minimum wage conversation is because it's going to uplift people that don't look like the folks who are running the majority of the Fortune 1000 companies in America. It's not my opinion. Look at the data. We keep repeating the same excuse. Well, if we do that, then we can't do, and it's always about taking care of, somebody else other than the people who need it the most. That's a fact. So when we talked about this yesterday in terms of the components around race, it ultimately is you got to take responsibility for the behavior that you exhibit or the things that you don't stand up for when it comes to race and gender in America. If you don't, it lands in your lap. And sometimes that's as simple as asking people, what can I do? So if you're not of color, if you're not black or of other cultural communities that are of color, and you don't know, then ask somebody. They'll tell you. They'll tell you here's what you need to do or not do to help improve our racial dynamic in this country and our gender dynamic in this country. Seriously, it's not complicated. So we had some fun with that and a bunch of other things and talking about who our favorite vocalists were, singers are, voices were. And like always, a family meeting does such a great job of just having fun and a crazy A time. So we're going to take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Choose Views on WCPT and pretty much anywhere you can stream, anywhere. And all of our other stations, WARR, KTNF, AM 950. Check us out. Question again for the day is, what do you guys think are the top items or steps elected officials need to take to improve our current healthcare systems in America? Let us know your thoughts there. A couple of quick Choose Views news items that we'll hit you with, and then we'll get onto a couple of the things that are happening in the world of WCPT. On this July 27th, 2026, over 50 and unemployed single moms' stories go viral. 52-year-old single mother is going viral after sharing her job search journey in an Instagram post and being profiled by several UK newspapers. Journalist Stacey Dugwade said long and fruitless attempts at finding work in midlife made her, quote, convinced she's unemployable. At one point, a friend even recommended she erase years of work experience from her resume in order to seem younger. Dugwade's story has resonated with other women and job seekers throughout the world. Lawsuit challenges the White House's new tariff regime. No sooner had the U.S. enacted a new battery of tariffs than a lawsuit was filed to challenge them. The suit, brought by two small businesses, argues that the new tariffs are effectively an attempt to use a different statute to reimpose previous tariffs that have been struck down by the U.S. Supreme Court, noting that the new duties went into effect just as older ones had lapsed. The White House says the levies are designed to target imports made with forced labor, with an administration official saying their implementation was timed to avoid complexity. Yeah. Got caught. Employers turn backdoor references amid AI concerns as job seekers increasingly lean on artificial intelligence to enhance their resumes. Some employers are evaluating candidates by reaching out to their current and former colleagues. On one hand, hiring managers might use, quote, backdoor references to get unfiltered assessments of potential employees. But the controversial method, which tracks back to the 19th century, also invites gossip and hearsay from ex-colleagues per Bloomberg, which, hello. Backdoor references used to be reserved for high-level roles, but the practice has recently expanded into entry-level jobs. Firms fail to replace outgoing sustainability chiefs. What does that mean? Fewer public listed companies had chief sustainability officers to start the month off as vacancies left by departing executives went unfilled. The downward shift makes a reversal for the role after 15 years of gains in this space and comes amid the so-called sustainability recession, in which corporate efforts to promote green initiatives tend to provide external pressures. Additionally, some firms have changed the name of the position and expanded its scope. And last but not least, more extreme heat tests are putting more pressure on power grids across the central part of the United States. Regional power grids are set to be tested by these extreme heat moments, and the U.S. is continuing to move more and more of their concern to more the remaining days of July and early August. Forecasters say overnight heat, which can eliminate natural cooling and drive up power demand, threatens to approach and increase and even break some of the records going back over 229 recent records, I should say. Both the Southwest Power Pool and the Mid-Continent Independent System Operators said loads could rise along with temperatures, which putting more stress on grids in over 20 states. So there you go. Just a couple of quick updates and a few Choose Views news on this July 27, 2026. Today on Live, Local and Progressive, Joan Esposito will be talking to urban historian Dominic Pasega, author of the 2025 book, Clout City, The Rise and Fall of the Chicago Political Machine. David DeWitt, Ohio Capital Journal Editor-in-Chief and opinion columnist, filmmaker, journalist, and best-selling author Greg Palast, Margaret Donovan, visiting lecturer at Yale University and former U.S. attorney and for the District of Connecticut and former captain in the Judge Advocate General Corps. Live, Local, and Progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in tonight on Driving It Home. Patty Vasquez will be joined by co-host Carmen Navarro, Gerson, and their guests are Ashley Awney, Missouri Democratic House Minority Leader. That's a mouthful, man. And Dr. Jason Bazell, Director of Chicago Community Acupuncture. That's Driving It Home weekdays here on WCPT, 5 to 7, Patty Vasquez Central Time, Heartland Signal website, tune in, YouTube, and Facebook. There you go. We'll get that eventually. And then tomorrow on Choose Views, I'll be joined by William Elliott Hazelgrove, author of the brand new book, Camp Mystic Flood, A Story of Tragedy and Heroism. Curtis Hertel, chairman of the Democratic Party in Michigan, and Dr. Teresa Brooks, physician and 2026 candidate for Michigan State Senate. So there you go. We got a few things happening on all of our shows. Joan, Patty, and myself looking forward to their guests. So make sure you tune in, and we'll give you a little bit of a reminder again before we wrap up today. All right. So on this moment or segment of something to chew on, American families, I've talked about this before, have been paying more and more as it relates to this war in Iraq. And I brought some numbers to you in terms of that. The average increase in what folks are paying per month is about $450 based on the war in Iran. And that number is a real number, and experts that I review and listen to are saying that number is going to increase. And even if the war ended today, that number is somewhat baked into the system of a family's everyday budget. The Joint Economic Committee also put out some recent numbers, and these are estimates as it relates to the tariffs and how the numbers have sort of finally caught up to what Americans are having to spend more on and in categories that are still yet to be disclosed because of how certain businesses have been able to shield some of the costs. In other words, they've been able to hold the line as best possible, but at some point that dam's going to break. But here's a number. American families have paid more than $1,700 each in tariff costs since Trump entered office the second time around, with the cost climbing steadily since the beginning of Trump's second term. And as I said earlier, even though the Supreme Court struck down some key portions of Donald Trump's tariff agenda, the analysis shows how much of this is a tax on American consumers and has already cost American families. And the number, going back to February, they did an analysis taking each month. It started off where Americans were spending about $55 more per month. It jumped to $60 to $99 to then over $100, and it kept climbing. By January of this year, Americans were spending over $200 and almost $210 more per month on goods and services and items that were directly tied to increases that have come from the tariffs that Donald Trump has implemented or tried to force on countries, to a total of $1,744, and that was as of January. $1,744.75 is the national average. American families have paid more in total. So divide that as you need to. The average would probably be about $175 per, and it's $165 per month. And those are January's numbers. So if we come forward till now, that number has probably gone up. And we know that the Joint Economic Committee reported that consumers had paid over $231 billion in tariff costs over a 12-month period of time. Think about that. So when we match that up with the increase, it's between, depending on how you look at it, it's $165 to $200 more per month with the tariffs. Add another $450 to that. So we're pushing $700-800 more per month per family as a country because of the tariffs and because of this war in Iran. That's $9,600 a year in round math. That's a lot of money. You take that over a period of time, that's a big savings for a family. That's money put away for college. That's money put away for, talk about being able to afford to buy a home. These are the things that when we talk about affordability, these are the things that that Donald Trump has forced on the country. And to the 78 million Americans that said that you were okay with that, you're either lying to yourself or you're financially irresponsible. There's no, and maybe a third is you just want to see other people that are not like you be in some sort of pain or discomfort. If you're okay with $800 more to your budget, and you said that you were voting for him because he was going to fix things economically on day one, somebody's lying. I don't know who it is, but somebody's lying. So you probably need to review that and determine if it's you or if you got lied to and you just, you took it. But there you go. The round numbers are about $800 per month that American families are having to spend more because of the tariffs that Donald Trump has been forcing on businesses, on our allies and others, and that he has caused in terms of increase as a result of this self-proclaimed Donald Trump war. That's what it's all about. It's on him, and it's on the GOP. So my little nugget of the day, be careful what you ask for, GOP. You got it. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with Ashley Bell for Congress down in the great state of North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I am Richard Chu. Thanks for being with us this morning. You guys know this. You know that I love this part of when we have a guest on, and that's just talking about how folks in states all over the country are making it happen. We've had so many wins in the special elections and new folks stepping forward in the primaries. People who have said, enough's enough. I'm not a politician. I didn't grow up thinking I was going to be a politician or run for office. But they look at things that are going on. And I think this is really applicable here with our first guest today in terms of some very specific things that are just not getting attended to. Ashley Bell is running for a candidate for Congress in the 10th District in North Carolina, a state that you guys know I've been down. I've done a town hall down there with the folks who are running in state offices and all of that. And we've had such great conversations with Anderson Clayton, who is the chair of the Democratic Party in North Carolina. And Ashley's just said, you know what? Now's my time. I gotta lean into these items, and I gotta do it with the expertise that I have in terms of my medical background and all the rest. So welcome to Choose Views this morning, Ashley. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So take a moment. This is your first time with us, so I don't want to be the one to read your biography. Give us your autobiography. Tell us a little bit about you, about your background, and why you decided that it was time to get in this race.
Okay. Well, I have been a PA for 15 years. I'm a physician associate, and I was practicing in telemedicine and women's health. And when Roe v. Wade came down, and at that point, I was writing upwards of 400 prescriptions for emergency contraception a day because people were just terrified and stockpiling it. And at that point, I kind of decided that I needed to do more than just write prescriptions. And so that's kind of when I got interested in it, and my interest just kind of snowballed from there. So, yeah, like I said, I've been a PA for 15 years. I'm just kind of tired of seeing insurance companies and other people without any medical training try to tell me what's best for my patients, when I feel like that should be the decision between me and my patients. And so that's kind of why I'm running.
And what have been some of the, I guess you could say, now that you're in the race, the eye-opening things that you found about politics, about, running a campaign and pulling all that together? What's been some of your your highlights or learning moments, if you will?
So campaigns are just really, really expensive. It costs a whole lot of money to run a campaign of any size, but especially a congressional campaign. And I think that unfortunately in the world of politics, there's just kind of a lot of pricing of opportunity. Vendors price things high because they can, because we have no other option. And so that has been one of the biggest eye openers. But I think in general, money in politics has been a huge eye opener for me. Basically, unfortunately, it has to do with the whole, whoever raises the most money oftentimes is the one that actually wins. And it really just shouldn't be that way. Like, regular people should be the ones holding office, and regular people are not the ones that are making all the money in this country. So
yeah, the two are they're not congruent is the word that I'm searching for when it comes to the wanting to represent the quote everyday person, but not necessarily coming from that crowd of folk. And that's okay. I mean, I've had this feeling and belief, I guess you could say, for a while, that money in politics in and of itself isn't bad, but dark money in politics, or money that you don't know about in politics, can be bad, particularly when it's directed at candidates that may not have the ability to fight back. And you probably have dealt with some of that, particularly since you're dealing with a person that's one. If I'm correct, it's a one term. The person you're running against has been there for one term. Is that right?
correct. Mm-hmm.
And so are they, yeah, from what you can tell, are they well funded, or what's kind of been some of your observations about the type of money or resources that they're spending, that he's spending?
So I'm running against Pat Harrigan, who is an firearms dealer, firearms manufacturer and firearms dealer. And he is not originally from North Carolina. He's from San Diego. And from what I can tell, he was actually, the Republican Party essentially purchased our district for him. Mm-hmm. He ran in another district the first time he ran, and was defeated by our now Attorney General, Jeff Jackson. Once they gerrymandered us for, I don't know, the 24th time in the last like 3 years, he was moved into our district, and he is much better funded than I am. I can tell you that.
Yeah. So one of the things that you really wanted to bring attention to, and it was part of my intro of you, is you want to make sure that some real attention, energy is put behind revamping our healthcare system. And let our listeners know a little bit more about some of your thoughts in there, what's kind of wrong with it. And you were, knowing that I'd be talking with you today, it kind of were the inspiration around I have a question of the day that I ask our audience, and what do you think are the top items or steps elected officials need to take to improve our current healthcare systems in America? I know, based on your experience and your inside knowledge, that you've got some observations and some things that maybe can't be done, but some things that not only can be, but have to be done, yesterday. What does that look like? Take a couple moments and share that with us.
So I think one of the things that a lot of people overlook is that if we don't have good healthcare providers that are happy and healthy, then we can't have good healthcare in this country. Like, it just can't happen. And so people, talk about insurance companies, and they talk about access, and they talk about salaries and all those kinds of things. But we have a major issue in this country with healthcare providers leaving the profession in very large numbers. I mean, a lot of this happened around COVID, but it just has continued to get worse. And a lot of this has to do with kind of the corporate takeover of medicine. These big companies have come in, and you see hospitals merging together and forming these huge conglomerates of multiple facilities. And it just kind of takes all the joy and takes all the art out of practicing medicine. It's no longer about just the provider and the patient. It's also about the money and the schedule and how many patients you can push through in a day. And so a lot of people got into medicine not to do that. They wanted to actually help people. And we don't have the time or the resources to do that with how medicine has been turned into a for-profit enterprise, unfortunately.
So the people that are the practitioners, and that's kind of the word that I use, the folks that are the providers. Yeah, I remember reading reports of the people that were leaving the profession, and COVID was probably the biggest, push, other than sort of natural attrition and retirement and all that. But many people were leaving mid-career because of the things that they couldn't do, but they knew they needed to do, and the corporatization, to your point. So how do we fix that? I mean, it's obvious, it's out there, but how do we go about, and what's your plan to try to stop the leak and then build back from there?
Well, I think a lot of it starts with getting corporate influence out of medicine. And, that's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's a proven fact that when these corporate entities take over healthcare facilities, that the quality of care goes down. And the satisfaction for not only patients, but providers also goes down. And so I think that there have to be some restrictions placed on when these corporations can actually take over facilities and what they're able to do. I also think that we have to throw resources behind healthcare providers that actually still want to practice true private medicine. So they want to own their own practice and they want to see their own patients. And unfortunately, in our system currently, it's just not affordable or feasible a lot of times for people to be able to do that. And so I think that we need to throw more resources, more grants behind providers who want to do things like that, so that we kind of get back to not necessarily the old way of doing medicine, because medicine is just an ever evolving thing, but we need to get back to why people got into medicine in the first place.
Do you think that that there's an well, I don't want to ask that question just yet, but do you think that there's a component that to better educate everyday folks about how corporate or corporatism in the healthcare field has been as destructive as it is? I mean, as someone that's running for office and it's, you stepped into that political ring, are you trying to help voters understand, folks in North Carolina that would vote for you, understand what sort of the changes have been, and then giving them sort of an insight to the future? Is that part of how you're approaching this?
That's part of it. I think that if we can all talk about it. If we're, in healthcare, we can all talk about what we're seeing. But I think also that people who use the healthcare system can see it as well. Like they don't even necessarily need us to tell them, like, the healthcare quality has gone down. Like, big facilities are focused on profit, and they're focused on pushing you through as fast as possible. And so you can see that from your end without any medical training or anything. And so I think those of us who actually work in healthcare need to be a little bit more vocal about what we're seeing so that people understand it's not that healthcare providers want to be jerks about this. It's that we have no other choice but to just move as fast as possible and get through a day.
Yeah, talk a little bit about, before we go to this break, our first break, you've been one that's been very strongly in favor of Medicare for all. Give us your thoughts on that, where you stand, why you stand where you stand in that space.
I just think that anybody in this country should not have to worry about where their healthcare is coming from. I just think that if we are supposedly the greatest country in the world, that should not be a concern. You shouldn't have to worry about potentially losing everything because you get sick. And so that's my biggest driver for Medicare for all, but also because Medicare for all would just simplify a lot of the processes that we see in our healthcare system today that are making the system an issue for both providers and patients.
Yeah, got it. Ansel, let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, talking with candidate for North Carolina's 10th Congressional District, Ashley Bell. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and this morning we are talking with Ashley Bell, who is running for Congress in North Carolina's 10th Congressional District. Her background as a physician associate and educator have made her uniquely qualified to run for this seat and push back on, as she said, and I would agree, someone that was sort of parachuted in, those are my words, but parachuted into North Carolina as a candidate that has been in the seat for the past 2 years. And we, throughout the country, Ashley, recognize that that's happening, where there's folks that have the money, they have the access, the resources, all those things, and they're just, parachuting into a community. They don't really know the community. And, once they pass the litmus test of having been there long enough to be considered a resident, then they run. And that's certainly driven by money and politics more than anything else. But you've really pushed back on how important it is to make sure that people like Pat Harrigan don't get to remain in the office, and largely because they aren't really connected to the people who are part of that community. And you've got a blend of rural and urban makeup of that community. Talk about what those voters are saying to you about him being in that seat and what he hasn't done in these 2 years as a sort of parachuted in incumbent.
Well, you're right. We do have a blend of both rural and urban in our district. But it's interesting, both of the voters in both of those kinds of areas are pretty much saying the same thing. Pat Harrigan has not done anything for people in our district. Pat is pretty well obsessed with defense and war and China and drones and all kinds of things that don't have anything to do with the 10th district of North Carolina. It's really actually quite striking. I don't think I've ever seen a representative before that just so blatantly ignores where he actually lives and the people that he actually serves. He has never done an in-person town hall. He did something kind of at the beginning of his term where they called it a town hall and then they decided that it wasn't a town hall. It was just kind of an office opening. And so people showed up with signs, and he got really mad at this one elderly lady who had a little sign on a styrofoam cooler top, and called her violent and said that there was an angry mob. And I mean, they probably were an angry mob after he left and disappeared and wouldn't talk to his people. But he does these telephone town halls where he can screen the questions that he takes. And so he doesn't have to answer any hard questions, and he doesn't talk to anybody in person. And so that is just not how a representative should behave. And I mean, he does not, like I said, he does not know our district. I've been here for 15 years on and off. And regardless of whether people are in the rural or urban areas, it is interesting to see kind of how people in those two settings have kind of come together and are all kind of saying the same thing now.
It's interesting. You were describing him in terms of, his weapons manufacturing and his the whole thing around military and such, and it seems like he, from what I've read, and I know about that clip you were talking about, he hasn't left the military and served to then actually serve the community. He still feels like it's war games for him, and many of the things that I've read and that have been written about him. And again, some of the videos. I mean, YouTube is a real interesting tool, depending on how you use it, because it's out there. It's out there for a long time. But he's stuck in that mode, but not actually helping everyday folks that are there in the community. And I think that you're right. He would rather spend his time denigrating people in the community than actually helping them. At least from what I've read and what I've seen.
Yeah, correct. He actually did an interview a few days ago on CNN where he talked for 16 minutes about the war in Iran, and you could tell that he's not stupid. He's a smart guy, and he's got a lot of experience in the military.
Well, let's put it this way, Ashley. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
He's got an education. I'm not going to say he's a smart guy. He's been educated, so I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. So, I mean, you can tell he doesn't really agree with what is going on as far as strategy with the war right now, but he's not going to say anything that'll make his daddy Trump mad.
No.
And he's not going to say anything that will make Pete Hegseth mad. And it's amazing to kind of watch the verbal gymnastics that he puts himself through to kind of justify what's going on over there when there really is no justifying what's going on over there.
He actually, he's got Afghanistan experience, so he should know. And I shouldn't say he should know. When I've listened to some of those things you're talking about, he knows that there's no strategy with this war in Iran, and because he saw that up close and personal of this lack of strategy when it comes to Iraq and Afghanistan. So by virtue of that, he has literally more experience in understanding that than Pete Hegseth does, to be candid. But you're right. He can't and won't say it because he's too worried about upsetting Daddy Trump. I love the way you put that. That's good, Ashley. I might have to steal that one for a few shows.
Yeah, feel free.
Well, listen, Rural Roots lives and works in North Carolina 10. You've been there for a bit, and you understand the folks that are there. And one of your other areas of concern, and one that you've been leaning into, actually a couple, are affordability and some economic relief. And I think that, like so many folks that are running for office right now, affordability is not just a throwaway word. It has meaning in the community. What's been your conversations when you talk to people that they're having real struggles? I talked about this earlier. $800 a month is the net number, the cost of this war and the cost of the tariffs on everyday families in America per month. What are you hearing? And then when you think about that, when you walk away from a town hall or a conversation with people, that you say, this is what I've got to be able to do to affect that in a positive way.
Yeah, nobody can afford to do pretty much anything. I mean, gas is through the roof. I think the cheapest I've seen it here lately is about 3.79. Um, people have to drive to get to work around here. We don't have a lot of jobs that are just walkable, especially in these rural areas, and so it puts a big burden on people who live in those areas to actually get to work. And groceries, everything is just too expensive. And I think that that is really going to be the Republicans' downfall this midterm election, is that people are just tired of having to struggle and save every single little penny just to try to make it to the next payday. I mean, people don't just work one job. They weren't just working one job before, but now they're working two and three jobs. And I was working four jobs until 2 weeks ago when I had to quit two of them so that I could have more time to campaign. But I mean, it's really affecting people of all income levels. But, it is just something that is not sustainable and we have to get a hold on.
Federal minimum wage, $17 an hour. You've stood behind that strongly, and I certainly understand that as well. What are you hearing from folks in the community? What are you hearing from businesses in the community when it comes to that push?
Well, I think businesses of course, they're concerned about the increase in what that would cost for their businesses. But I also think that they recognize that if we don't pay people, then they're not going to stay around. And when we have to retrain constantly and rehire people, that is sometimes more of a cost to the business than it would be otherwise. So I think that a lot of people are coming around to that, and that is just what it takes to live now, is more money, and we have to make sure that we are paying people enough to live on just one job. It shouldn't be the standard that you have to have two or three jobs.
Yeah, it's no longer, it needs to be a sexy thing to say I'm working three jobs to make things, happen. Ashley, yeah. It's been great to have you with us briefly this morning, rather. Just take a little bit as we wrap up to tell our audience all over the country a couple things, a little bit more about, kind of your final push, but also what do you want to see and be able to do for voters right there in the district if you become the next congressperson there?
What I really want to do immediately is just try to end the chaos. Like, I think everybody wakes up in the morning and is like, well, what fresh hell awaits me today? I know I do. But I think just like ending the chaos would be a good start. But I also think we have to reinstate some of these things that were making people's lives easier, just to kind of get things back on track, like reinstating the ACA credits and stopping these tariffs and trying to give people some immediate relief while we try to put everything back together. And when I say putting it back together, I don't mean putting it back exactly the way it was, because obviously that's what got us in this position in the first place. So I think that is my immediate focus, is getting people back to a livable condition. And then we can start to work on actually making things better. And I would also just say to people who are progressives and other candidates who are progressives, just be proud to be progressives. Like, we are the ones who are on the right side of history here. We're the ones who are fighting for the people in our district. We should not be ashamed of that. We don't need to let the other side make us feel bad for basically asking for what actual people deserve.
Yeah.
So I think that is just something that we need to keep in mind and kind of keep as our North Star.
Absolutely. Ashley Bell for Congress, y'all. She's running in the 10th District in North Carolina. Proud to have you with us this morning. Keep up the good fight. We'll try to have you back again and keep this train moving forward. Thanks, Ashley, for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, let's take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with Sarah Jones from the Politicus USA. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you are just tuning in, the number, of course, is 773-763-9278. Today on Live, local and progressive Joan Esposito will be talking to urban historian Dominic Pasiga, David DeWitt, Ohio Capitol Journal editor, filmmaker Greg Pallas, Margaret Donovan, lecturer at the Yale Law School. It's, of course, our good friend, our afternoon Joan Esposito, weekdays 2 to 5 here on WCPT, heartlandsignal.com, and tune in. Patty Vasquez will be joined by co-host Carmen Navarro Gerson, and their guests will include Ashley Awani, Missouri Democratic House Minority Leader, and Dr. Jason Puzel. And, of course, tomorrow I've got William Hazelgrove on with me, Chris Hertel, and Dr. Teresa Brooks. So, yeah, things are kind of full up. Make your way to all of our shows. Where do we start? Our good friend Sarah Jones is with us this morning. Good morning, Sarah. Welcome back to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. How are you?
Good. Deep breath. Where do we start? I got like a laundry list of things. Let me throw this at Sarah. What does Sarah think about this? Oh, my goodness, Sarah. I've got to go back and highlight one of your articles that I thought was worth talking about. And that Elon Musk is having a bad week.
Yeah.
Talk about what that, you wrote this great piece on your Substack, Elon Musk's very bad week. Help us understand where you were coming from and what your points were there.
Well, overarchingly, I want people to understand that as much as Trump and Elon Musk and all of the tech bros act like they are inevitable in terms of their power grabs, what is actually happening is they are being rejected by the broader culture. And so Elon Musk had a very bad week in terms of, he first hit this trillionaire status, right, which was a big moment for him. But now both SpaceX and Tesla stocks slid to such an extent based on his overpromising, which is exactly what Donald Trump does. It's kind of the modus operandi of this group of tech oligarchs and sort of just power grabbers. It's how they are marketing themselves to the public, where they give all these crazy promises, and then none of those things ever happen. But they somehow have gotten more into power by making these promises. So they're gliding on. Maybe it's partly the media coverage is why that's happening, because they are playing the way the media covers news right now.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, so Elon and his gang of angry incels on X, formerly known as Twitter when it had a real life, they were predicting that the Odyssey was going to be this huge failure because they wouldn't, they use couched language to say these things, but their point was that because they cast a Black woman to play Helen of Troy, the most beautiful woman in the world, and she is, the actress they cast is, you could argue, and I would agree, that she is the most beautiful woman in the world, or at least one of them. And then they were mad that they cast a trans actor. So they ginned up all of this controversy. But guess what? The Odyssey ended up breaking records, and it's continuing to do so. And it's been well received by all of the critics. And, it just shows that they live in this echo chamber of rage and hatred of things that they don't really understand. And part of what I was writing about, is that fascists don't understand art. They always try to capture it because art is so powerful, and they can't capture it because they don't have what it takes to make art. So that's the other takeaway from all of this. But it's fun to watch. Right? It's fun to watch this, like their balloon being deflated.
Yeah, he's not going to be hurting because he's not a trillionaire. So, a lot of people were probably saying, well, no tears for Elon because he's no longer a trillionaire. But two things that come to mind about that conversation. One is, you're right, the mainstream media, the corporate media specifically, made a big A deal about him being a first trillionaire. But the fact that his numbers were down for his two primary, income-driven businesses, there was no real coverage around it. There was no real, oh, wait a minute, because it doesn't fit the narrative that they need to have it fit, and it doesn't fit what the corporatization and the consolidation of media has done to us. So that's part one that came to mind when you were sharing that. The second thing is, Lupita Nyong'o is one of the most beautiful women on the planet. If we're going to look at just beauty of people, she's stunning. And her acting prowess is completely off the chart. I mean, to be in roles of movies like 12 Years a Slave, to being in Odyssey, I mean, her range is phenomenal. So yeah, the tech boys, the tech bros, and all the rest, they have a problem with it not being someone that fits their narrative. And clearly, the success of this movie has proven them very, very wrong. So it's been nice to see.
And it's like, for me, I'm I was a member of the Screen Actors Guild. I also translated the Odyssey from Latin to English because why did I study Latin poetry? I don't know, but I did. And it hasn't been helpful, except for in this moment. And so these guys grousing out about, historical inaccuracies is just, it just shows, it's like they don't even know what they're talking about. And that's, imagine, so that person is the richest person in the world, and he doesn't even bother to get basic information before he runs off on these, perhaps ketamine fueled rants that go on for, it seems like he's on there tweeting 24 hours a day, much like Donald Trump is on his social media. And I think that is also indicative of sort of where these guys are not okay.
No. Well, did you? Okay, so I got to step into this for a couple minutes before we go to break and let you bat this one around, Sarah. But Donald Trump and the White House Correspondents' Dinner was quite an interesting, display of some sickness, some ill health, some cravenness, all kind of rolled into one big ball of disgusting decay, frankly. I mean, talk a little bit about what you saw and what your observations were around this White House dinner, the Correspondents' Dinner.
Well, first of all, I do not. One of the policies that we enacted as soon as he won this latest election is that we weren't going to cover the things that he said anymore.
Right.
And I think that's really important because people need to focus on what he is doing instead of what he is saying. And I think that the White House Correspondents' Dinner is actually an example of everything that's wrong with our political media right now. That being said, so I don't agree with even having this event anymore. I never agreed with having the event, actually, but now it's very problematic. That being said, I think that this really showed not only his decay and his decline mentally, but that this is fundamentally someone who is a psychopath. And I'm not diagnosing him that willy-nilly. I'm going off experts who have said that. They have pointed out that he has spent his life denying, deceiving, deflecting, disparaging, and doubling down every time he's challenged. He doesn't have empathy. I think that the way he conducted himself was so shameful as to embarrass every person there for being involved in it. Anyone who is supporting him, and that includes, namely, the Republican lawmakers who right now are, heading to D.C. to push more of his dangerous policies and money for this war. when we are told that there is no money for health care, there's no money for food for children, and Donald Trump is defunding blue states out of pettiness and sickness. This is a sick man. And I don't find it funny, and I know people love to crack jokes about him and insult him. You know what? I wish I could find relief in those things. I just don't. It is I'm so grievously troubled by the impact he is having every second that he is president right now. People are dying.
Yeah.
And you look at what happened with USAID, which I wrote about, because it looks like Elon killed that because they were investigating what he did with the satellites that he gave to Ukraine, which he promised Russia didn't have access to, and Russia did have access to.
Sure did.
And so now millions of people's lives have been imperiled by that. And that was just this petty thing. And I think Elon Musk and Donald Trump both are psychopaths. And so right now we have psychopaths who have risen to global power and are impacting everyone's lives. And it's just so sickening and it's troubling. So I think what we saw from him at the White House Correspondents' Dinner is I think it displayed exactly what we all knew he was, but that ironically the media has been denying. Then he put it on for display for them.
Yeah, all the ways in which they've tried to dodge it was actually, in this event or at this event was on full display. Sarah, let's take a little bit of a break and get a shout out from a couple of our listeners. Jim particularly says, Sarah Jones on the show, love it. So shout out to you from one of our listeners.
Oh.
I figured I'd let you know. Let's take a quick break.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, pretty cool, right? You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu, talking with Sarah Jones, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with our good friend Sarah Jones from the Politicus USA and the Daily with Sarah Jones. Sarah, another one of our listeners said, hey, Richard, the fact that Musk incels are demanding a character in the Odyssey be white is absurd. And in caps says, it's a fictional tale. It's mythology.
Exactly.
The characters can be of any ethnicity. And that's so well put to our listener point, because but what it really shows is that these guys just have to have everything be white and be male, and I'm even going to take now the straight part off of it, particularly if you believe what Hunter Biden was talking about with Don Lemon the other day. I know you probably saw that. Well, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing about their obsession with skin color is so absurd. It's melanin, right? And it forms based on where you are on the globe in a reaction to the sun. That's it. It has nothing to do with anything. And it's even weird, like, Greece is further, people are going to have darker skin just by sheer location. Like, I have never been able to figure out, like, how small of a person do you have to be to try so hard to push yourself up by pushing other people down based on it's almost like these guys are like grade school bullies looking for things that they can make themselves feel better about.
Yep.
By making other people somehow smaller than them. But, maybe use something that isn't completely irrational, like skin color. It's
And that's what that's what Trump. That's the other part of what he displayed, is that need to be a bully and just to pick on people and to do it in a disgusting way that just continues to show that there is a sickness there, and it's not just his physical or physiological illness that he's dealing with. There's some that clearly show that there are some mental deficiencies that are going on. And the people who are choosing to still stand by his side or stand behind him or push his narrative, they, in our minds, are as sick, if not more. Because if we say that they are of their right mind and they're making a decision to still be there, that's where the real problem is. Donald Trump is just the puppet that's being puppeted by those around him. But the people that are still around him and still backing him, if they are of their right mind, Sarah, they're the real problem. And I've been saying that for months now, that they're the real problem.
Yeah.
Because, if you can't call that out, then you've got a bigger issue than the person that's actually doing it, in my mind.
And the whole problem with the Republican Party is that they are incapable of shame. And so they see him as a vehicle through which to get all of these very far right, unpopular policies put into being and, roll back the country before the 1950s and punish people. There's a real sickness there. And I do want to just call out when I was quoting earlier about the psychopath, that came from Tony Schwartz, who, he ghost wrote The Art of the Deal for Donald Trump. So that was a phrase that he used to describe him. And he pointed out that Donald Trump enjoys inflicting pain on people. And we see that all the time. So yeah, the people around Donald Trump, if you look at the dynamics for a psychopath, there's always what people refer to as the flying monkeys who who work in service of the psychopath. They defend, they attack others in service of to the psychopath. And those are the people that are in his administration right now. And speaking of which, we have Todd Blanche's confirmation, right, to be permanent attorney general. And this is a man that not only was Donald Trump's defense lawyer, and so really clearly not independent. And the Department of Justice is supposed to be independent. They have just unfurled a, banner of Donald Trump that apparently cost nearly $1 million. This and a few other, the way they're pushing Donald Trump to stamp the Department of Justice, which again is supposed to be independent, with Donald Trump's image, because they have remade the Department of Justice into a Department of Vengeance that he is using to harm American citizens that he doesn't like. Yeah,
and again, it's another moment of wasteful spending or wasteful use of resources. Sarah, I don't want you to be the one that has to be the solver of this problem or this challenge, but I do want to get your thoughts, observations on what's going on. I mean, you're in Pennsylvania, so what's going on with this dude known as John Fetterman, formerly known as John Fetterman? What is happening? Wow.
Well, okay. There's so much that goes on with him. We talked about him last week, or is it the same
latest
stuff?
The latest thing that I'm hearing now is that there's some trouble in River City with regard to he and his spouse. And I don't know if that's true. I've vetted as best I could in the short amount of time that I read this, but apparently there are rumblings that because of the way in which he's been not acting mentally, but because of the way he's been treating the Democratic Party and the citizens that got him elected, that he's that they're looking at separating, from what I've read. Don't know to what extent that's going to happen, but I'm just curious what you may have heard in that space.
I haven't heard that. When the interviews that I saw of her prior to him really exposing himself as the person that he's become after this stroke, she always she seemed very protective of him, very enamored of him. And I thought she was a very interesting woman, very strong, with a lot of strong values. But as we have seen, so who know? I don't know. I have not heard that rumor. It wouldn't be surprising though, because he has changed so much. I mean, I don't know how you deal with that in a marriage, and I think he's become so hostile. It's like he's suffering from oppositional defiance disorder or something, because he's that reactive to expectations that are put upon him by the people who voted for him.
Right.
So I can imagine that you could see that playing out in a marriage, and that would be very unpleasant.
Yeah.
And I hope she does get away from him. Frankly, I mean, I don't think he's well.
Yeah, it's a story that's brewing, so I'm gonna pay attention as well. I just caught a little bit of that really early this morning. So I was curious what you may have heard, if anything at all. Hey, as we kind of wrap up, one of the things that was also an interesting piece, and we don't have a lot of time to go into it right now, but we will when we talk again. But BBC is really giving Trump the business right now when it comes to his financial records, and what the suit that he put forward is now kind of coming back to bite him in the backside. What do you have to say for 30 seconds about that?
I think it's great. BBC called Donald Trump's bluff. They had the spine to do that, unlike the media companies here in the United States, and they are winning because of it. They are coming after the January 6th text. They are coming after exposing the false narrative that he wasn't involved and that he didn't incite January 6th, and he can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So this is exactly where he needed to be. This is what a real media company would have done here in the United States, but they didn't. They capitulated to him out of greed and self-protection and a self-interest, because having him in office is very lucrative for them.
Yeah, he's been boxed in on this one. So, guys, you wrote a great article in that space. Guys, check out Sarah, as always. Good to have you back 2 weeks in a row. Always fun.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be here.
All right, Sarah, have a great rest of the week, and we will talk to you soon. Good to hear your voice. Take care, okay?
You too. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye. Quick break, guys. 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and now AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. When we come back, we'll be talking with legendary retired Army General Russel Honore. We'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu. Thanks for being with us. Thanks to Sarah Jones from Politicus USA, as well as Ashley Bell, who's running for Congress in North Carolina. One of our other great leaders who's been with us before, and it's always an honor to have him with us. Puts a big smile on my face to see him, is our wonderful Army Lieutenant General, retired Russel Honore, is with us again. Good morning, General. Welcome back to the show.
Hello, Mr. Chu. Hello, America.
Ha. Good morning. Good morning. What you drinking in that mug? I saw you tipping it up this morning.
Coffee.
Sir, it's good to see you. Glad you're well. And I have to ask you this personal question. How's your health holding up? You doing okay?
I'm doing good enough.
That's right.
1947 model. I'm hanging in there.
Bruised up a little bit, but you buffed out some of those bruises and you keep on running down the road, as the phrase goes.
Yeah, just keep moving and take your meds and go see the doc.
Yeah, don't be too proud to say something ain't feeling right and go get it checked out.
That's right.
Don't be too proud. Sir, it's good to see you as always, and I know our listeners are great to hear your voice. I'm going to dive into the deep end of the pool, as I say, and get right to it about something that is a strain on our country right now, and it's an embarrassment, and it's all the rest, and that's this doggone war in Iran. And I know you've probably been asked this question by a bunch of different folks, but as someone that served in the capacity that you have for such a long time and understands the importance of both tactical and strategic operations, neither seem to be the place here. Even the tactical, after this war has started, seems to be faltering. Talk to us about when you go from 10,000 feet down to 100 feet of observing this and placing your observations on it. What are you seeing, and how does it make you think and feel right now?
Yeah, there are many talk about this is a war that started 47 years ago, and it was good reason we never went to a conventional fight with Iran. And the current folks will tell you, well, this is the only president that had the courage to do it for all the wrong reasons. His own cabinet told him, three of them are quoted as saying, this is not a good idea. But he went along with the Prime Minister of Israel, who had been pushing, going all the way back to President Bush, this idea we needed to attack Iran before they get a nuclear weapon. So this has been going on over a decade, this aspiration of the Prime Minister of Israel to do a preemptive attack on Iran to destroy their nuclear capacity or ability to build a nuclear weapon. For the idea is that if they got one, they would use it now, and Iran, on its own aggression, has funded the proxies in the region, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and the guys down in Yemen, and have done that to as their point of grievance against Israel and the great Satan, as they refer to us, the United States, on opposite ends of what's of interest in the Middle East. At the beginning of this war, I think the administration lacked clarity. They did a successful epic attack that they claimed great success from them in Israel, and they took out the Iranian leadership. And that has rekindled this idea of revenge from Iran. And it has muddled up the whole idea of kind of work some kind of negotiation when they look across the table and say, well, you killed our leaders and our leadership. And what is brought in has been described by many others, a more hardened RGC, the Republican guards, who are now in charge of the country. And they've captured the Strait of Hormuz. Regardless of what folks say, they control the Strait of Hormuz, which 20 to 25% of the world's fossil fuel go through. So we're in a dilemma. I think the Iranians see they've got a heavy card to play. They don't have a nuclear weapon, but they control the strait, and it's made them the equivalence of a superpower, Richard, because they control the strait. And they're doing it asymmetrically. They don't have big bombers. They don't have long-range jets, but they've got enough missiles and drones to be able to close that strait. So the administration finds itself in a dilemma. Then we still got this thing going on with Israel and what they're doing on the West Bank now and continuing to attack into Gaza. There is a ceasefire going on in Lebanon, but all that's very tenuous. So I think the Prime Minister of Israel coming to town tomorrow. Yeah. The president has promised another big attack. And then there's a lot of questions about our ability to continue to do the air defense we need because we've used so much of those munitions. So there are a lot of things on the table, and you're not quite sure if you're hearing the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth from the administration.
General, thank you for that. And then two questions have been on my mind and that I want to ask you about this. One, what are the assessments from other retired military in any branch of the government like you? What are you guys sharing with each other? What is it that, folks with the experience that you have are seeing and saying about this? Are there just one-offs like yourself, or are there others that are sitting back and recognizing what really is going on?
Well, I think we fall generally in two camps. One of them want to be more aggressive and do attack to include some limited ground invasion. I hear that in the camp I listen to. And the others, myself, a more cautious approach. But both camps believe in one thing. It's going to take diplomatic work. And this war will not be solved by kinetic strike. It will be solved by diplomacy. And I think there's a coming to mind among many on both camps, whether to be more aggressive or to be more defensive and protect our troops that are 55,000 that are deployed in the Gulf countries. But at the end of the day, it's going to take some meaningful negotiated peace. Diplomacy is going to have to rule. Kinetic strikes, one kinetic strike or repeated kinetic strike will not break the will of that Republican Guard in Iran. So this pause in the fighting will give diplomacy a chance, but we've got to be prepared to go to the table and get not just the regional governments, but the global community involved in negotiating with Iran. And they've taken about $300 billion in damage to the infrastructure, and they feel they are owed that now. Mm-hmm. But they're fighting for revenge. And there's an old saying from the warrior Sun Tzu, if you fight a war for revenge, you dig two graves, one for you and one for your enemy. As opposed to conceiving a political objective, which a war should achieve, I think both sides now are into some form of a revenge. You kill our troops, now we're going to kill more of your troops. You hit our infrastructure, we're going to hit more of your infrastructure. As opposed to going for a political objective, which would have been the cessation of attacks from the proxies that Iran sponsored, and Iran killed a lot of our troops in Iraq. So we've got some revenge going on there on our own part. But they found themselves a golden weapon, and that's the Strait of Hormuz to negotiate around.
Do you think, General, that we have the people, you talk about this in terms of the diplomatic part that's needed. How do you feel, or do you feel that we have the people that can go to that table and adequately be diplomatic and negotiate in a way that's going to get us to be able to move forward on our side, I should say?
Well, we've been going on 5 months now, longer than that, because we did serious negotiations supposedly before this current war started. I don't think so. We do have people in the United States that were in the State Department people, and even members of Congress engaging that would not necessarily do this overnight, but after the strike that killed their leadership, we've had some good help from the Pakistanis and the Oman and UAE and the Saudis. Everybody want to see this stop because they're taking the fire. Mm-hmm. And what we have to fear is two levels of escalation. If they start attacking each other's oil production, that could take 3 to 5 years to recover. So you'll be looking at $5 gas through the 28 election. And I think that is what might be holding the White House up from more aggressive attacks on the oil production. But the president posted over the weekend a meme showing an AI-generated attack on Carg Island. You blow up Carg Island,
Yeah.
you're going to have some major problems for years to come with the production and availability of fossil fuel that runs this global economy. It's going to cause a lot of problems. If you put troops on Carg Island, it'll be like Vietnam. So many KIE, WIE, and MIE daily coming over the news. The American people don't settle for that. What I have not seen is the American people getting off the AZZ and protesting this war. I think the information operation that the administration has done is that if you're against the war, you're against our troops. And I think we live in a generation, my generation, the boomers, who saw how dysfunctional that was during the Vietnam War. But I think until we see people marching on the street protesting this war, the administration will continue to have their way. Right now, people are trying to protest at the ballot box. But, for democracy to work, you got to have truth, you got to have justice, and you have to have a free press. And all of that is under attack right now, Richard.
Yes, sir. It absolutely is. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about the troops and the numbers, which you've had a lot to say about in terms of the folks that have actually been harmed and that have actually died. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, and our good friends at AM 950, the progressive voice of Minnesota. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking with retired Army General Russel Honore, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, welcome back to Choose Views. If you're just tuning in, I'm Richard Chu, and we are talking with retired Army General Russel Honore about what's going on with the war in Iran, I should say. The numbers got reduced of actual casualties from 18 to 14. Hegseth went up to Capitol Hill and showed his behind, as the phrase goes, in this conversation about asking for more money, but also they've changed the numbers. These four young folks who we lost, so these four soldiers, and not given proper recognition as well. I know that rubs you the wrong way. I won't even have to ask you that question. But let's speak to this the travesty of losing them, but also then not recognizing them in the way that they should be honored.
Yeah, it's always a sad day to see we doing a dignified ceremony, bringing our dead home. That being said, the way the Pentagon handled this, as they do with many things, some mixed messaging. They said, well, it was a ceasefire, so they didn't die during the war. And they took their names down. Got so much pushback from across the country, from all sides, all quarters, that was wrong. And they came back, I want to say it was early Saturday, Friday night or Saturday, and said, okay, well, it was a glitch. It was a mistake. How do you make a mistake with something so simple?
And something so sensitive as well.
Right. And they have since made a correction yesterday that the names will be going back, and they're working to get it typed back in without apology, without regret. But their initial report was, well, they died during the ceasefire. After ceasefire was over, it wasn't what didn't happen during the war. And then they won't call it a war, military operation, kind of using Putin's language, that it's not a war, because by the War Powers Act, that's the function of Congress to declare a war. So it was very confusing. It was disrespectful. It was hateful. For anybody in that Pentagon or at the White House to come up with this idea that these troops would not be counted. And to add insult to injury, at the dignified transfer, the president said some hateful words that one soldier looked very good because he looked at the charts, and he would have been a general one day. But the 3 soldiers of color, oh, by the way, had little dings on their cards. Why in the hell would you say that in the front of parents and the world watching this, that they had little dings on their card? But notice one was a woman and all 3 were people of color. That's a crying damn shame. And why America isn't in the street marching against this, I don't know. And I'm a soldier. I served, I didn't go to Vietnam, but I served at the end of that period. And that made a difference in ending that endless war. But you see very little protest, but people got so much other shit they got to protest about. I think we're over the moon on what people protesting about.
You know,
about voting, about deportation, about killing people on the street by ICE. I mean, there are a lot of issues out there, and wanting to have a safe election. So we got a lot to protest about, but I think the American people are going to have to stand up and say, no, let's get this thing, find a conclusion, let diplomacy work, because that was shameful how they handle those soldiers.
yeah.
And they'll get the record corrected.
But we shouldn't have had to be there. We shouldn't have had to be there in the first place. And it just, you are an example. And I say this all the time. You know, I'm not blowing smoke, on you on this. But your leadership is something that's been well written and documented. And this is not leadership by any stretch of the imagination at all. And it makes me think of one of your books, Don't Get Stuck on Stupid. And right
yeah,
now,
I don't know what
go ahead. I'm sorry.
We got 2 presidents in a row. Biden had to hurry up and do Afghanistan, and he screwed that up. The generals told him now is not the time to evacuate Afghanistan. Oh, no, we're going to do it because Trump said we're going to do it by August. That was the stupidest move, and I don't know why some principals didn't resign over that, because that's the kind of actions you got to take when you get a bad order.
Yeah.
Kind of like the admiral in Southern Command when the Pentagon tell him to strike the boats. He said, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And he retired. I mean, there come a point in time, if you get a bad order, you shouldn't take it. So I'm sorry to disrupt your train of thought there, but
not at all. I mean, where we are right now is an example of that very thing, where there's no leadership, and how we are in this war, how we're staying in this war, and if we get out of it, is clearly the leadership that we need is not there. We know that. But I hadn't heard anyone say, and I'm glad you were able to bring this to our mind, that we've got so much to protest right now, so much is going on. and we know that there's a bunch of food on the table. We got to pick one meal, as the phrase goes. But I hadn't even thought about what you said, General, about the war protest hasn't kicked in. People are upset about it. People are obviously paying at the pump because of it. But it may be folks in the street protesting it in ways that we've had in the past that might be the thing that bends the needle. Let me ask you this, sir, as we wrap up today, and thank you so much for being with us. I get 2 things happen. I get excited and I get nervous every time I know I'm going to have you on the show for all the good reasons. But General, your GreenARMY has really made some strides, and bring us up to speed on what the GreenARMY is doing, what y'all are working on, and some of the successes that you guys have been able to put forward when it comes to climate resilience.
Yeah, well, our team down in St. John Parish was successful in continuing to push back on Danker chloroquine plant. That plant's closed now. And they've been fined heavily. But we're still recovering from the Roseland explosion last year. It's Smitty's explosion. That's a primarily African-American town in Roseland. Very small government, intangible whole parish. And we never really got the whole truth on that plant. But the government knew this plant was not operating the standard, and they continued to let them operate, as was with the Danker plant. Air pollution is a major problem. You know, it's hotter this year than it was last year. It's going to be hotter next year than it is this year, and we got wildfires. Don't vote for anybody who don't believe in climate change. It's here. Don't vote for anybody who don't believe in global warming. It's here. It's changing the weather patterns. We got fires breaking out not only in the U.S., but overseas. We had over 100 degrees some places in Europe earlier this year. It's real. But we've been made to believe that it's a hoax. It's not a hoax. And it's not just El Nino or change in the weather. It's real because the amount of carbon we're putting in the air is heating the earth, and much of that is coming from methane from that thing called LNG plants. They are a major producer of methane, and methane is more dangerous to global warming than is carbon. So there's this idea that we're going to put more data centers in and run them off of fossil fuel. That's a mistake because it's going to eat up more water, going to cause more noise, and it's going to drive up electric bills. So we got some big issues to deal with. The good news is, when I say people are not protesting, people are raising hell online. And I think that may have been, today's protest might be the negative voice we see online. As opposed to going protest, people are sit down and say, oh, hell no, we don't want that. And they form a group. So there's a lot of organic movement in Louisiana to push back on all these issues. And we just had a carbon capture and sequestration project in Maplewood that we help inform the people of and help them organize. So we're having some success, but we're not having as much success as we should with air pollution because the administration continued to lighten the requirements and telling the plants, don't worry about it. Pollute all you want, in essence, is what the administration is telling them. But we got a lot of work yet to do. We didn't have any luck in the Louisiana legislature. But we've got, what it did stir up is more people in small communities raising hell about pollution, about the impact on the drinking water, about the impact on the air and the impact on the health. They have started a grassroots movement that's way beyond to include people from all sides are now talking about pollution, which was not the case 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was only one side talking about air pollution. And then we wasted a lot of time during the Biden administration talking about environmental justice as opposed to talking about pollution.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And we should have closed some of these plants and get them in compliance.
And then
get them in compliance, make your chemical, keep your stuff in your pipes. We need this stuff. Anybody say we don't need that plastic wrap around your head or that cover on that microphone? That thing got a DNA somewhere out of Kansas Alley because it's produced from chemicals. So that being said, thanks for asking. But in closing, I think we need to pray and give voice for our Haitian brothers. This temporary status is about to end. I did a piece last week in the New York Times. If you hadn't seen it, we ought to talk about that because sending 300,000 people back to Haiti now is, the State Department said, don't go to Haiti.
But
and DHS is saying we're going to send you to Haiti.
We can send people back. General, put a button in that for a moment because we do want to talk about that. Let's have you back sooner than later. Let's talk about that concern. I'd love to have that conversation with you. And as always, thank you for being with us this morning. There's never enough time, but I appreciate you taking some time out this morning to hang out with us and drink some coffee. So always good to see you, sir.
God bless America and get off your AZZ and go vote, folks. Take somebody with you, double your impact. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great rest of the day and a good week. Wow, guys. General Russel Honore bringing us the truth as always. We got to get out of here, though. It's the end of the show. We got to wrap it up. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show. And remember, as always, guys, take a deep breath and make your life count. We will see you tomorrow.